What's up, my friends? Thanks for tuning in. This is Joe. I want to talk to you today about what happens when we don't process our hurt. I get stopped a lot. People ask me a lot if I'm at parties, hey, do you feel like people are angrier today than they were, say, 30 years? It's one of the most common questions that I get. And the truth is, I always tell them, I don't know. I don't vaguely remember 30 years ago. I'm too young for that. Actually, the truth is, I have no idea. But I do know this. The world is full of hurt people. And one of the problems is we don't typically process our hurt in our society today. We're not doing a good job of delving down into the hurt and processing it. And unprocessed hurt becomes anger. Anger is a secondary emotion. If you're riding around and you're getting angry regularly, if you're getting angry with your boss regularly, there's always something before that, and there may be something that you just carry with you regularly that kind of puts you up higher. If this is calm and this is inflamed, one of the things that happens is if you don't process it, when it calms out, because it doesn't really calm down, you don't go back down to zero, you kind of run around about here, and then you have another fire, and another, and eventually you're just running around up about here, and it's not working for you because you're not processing your hurt. You get caught in anger. Unprocessed anger leads to rage. Unprocessed rage will lead to bitterness. And you'll meet people that they just hate large swaths of people. They're bitter, bitter, bitter. It's because they didn't deal with their rage. Now, what's rage? What's the difference between rage and anger? Rage is anger with jet fuel poured on top. And what happens is people just walk around, I call it the white hot flame of anger. It's just burning and consuming. And when you're wronged and you're legitimately hurt, you embrace this hurt. If it becomes your identity, you don't process it, you get angry. And if you don't deal with that anger, your anger goes up and you get more angry. Now think about this, because in our society, one of the things that we do is if we're hurt, we don't deal with it. We just shove it underneath the rug, right? Think about how you apologize. Most people, when they apologize, somebody says, I'm sorry, they say it's okay, no big deal. That's not actually a forgiveness exchange. In fact, at our house, we make our kids say, I'm sorry, I did this, will you forgive me? And then the other person has to say, yes, I will forgive you, if they choose to. They can't say, oh, it's okay, don't worry about it, because that's dismissive. It's shoving the hurt underneath the carpet. And when we shove the hurt underneath the carpet, we end up shoving the anger underneath the carpet, and then we end up shoving the rage underneath the carpet, and then we get stuck with bitterness. And once we start running around with bitterness, we're in trouble. Because after bitterness, we have contempt. And this is where we just look at the other person and we don't really care. I can't believe they said that. And we live in this contempt, and it starts to be a poison that goes through our system. And after contempt, we end up with apathy, where we're just like, whatever. In fact, I once heard it said that the opposite of love is not hate, it's apathy. And apathy is the biggest poison we have when it comes to human relationship. And the problem is, once you're past rage, if you go back and try to fix the hurt, if you go back and try to process it, if you go back and try and deal with it, it's like you hit a brick wall that pushes you back towards rage, bitterness, and all of the bad things on that side. And so one of the things is you have to kind of dig and claw your way back to process the hurt. And on the opposite side, if you want to move from hurt to health, you have to engage the forgiveness process. Now, the forgiveness process is a hard process. It's not this thing of, well, I choose to forgive, right? You're still going to feel angry. It doesn't mean you have to reconcile. A lot of people confuse those two. They confuse forgiveness and reconciliation. It does mean that you have to say, I take all of the hurt that you gave me and I accept it. Not because what you did was right, but because accepting it and not charging it to your account is me moving forward. It sets me free. Now, there are people that get really frustrated when they hear things like, you have to forgive. What do you mean I have to forgive? You have to forgive because if you don't, you're the one caught in the prison. You're the one caught in the past. You're the one caught always looking over your shoulder to that thing that happened back there. You're the one defining yourself by what someone else did to you. It does not mean you have to let them back into your lives. It doesn't mean that they shouldn't go to jail if they did something illegal. It doesn't mean that you have to re-engage them at the same level that you used to. In fact, I'd argue you should put boundaries around it. You should put things in place that keep you safe, that don't allow a toxic person, a hurtful person, a vengeful person to hurt you. Because if you don't do those things, you're going to get re-hurt. And that isn't the point of forgiveness. The point of forgiveness is to set you free. I talked to someone and they said, well, I don't know that I can forgive. You can always forgive because it's a choice. It's a behavior. It just doesn't mean you're going to forget. You'll remember. And when you remember and that pain comes up afresh, you can say to yourself, I chose to forgive that person. I chose to release them from the credit that I am due for what they did to me. I chose to release them from the ledger of what I am due for what they did to me. And yet, I kept boundaries with them. Now, if they want to reconcile, you may choose to do that. And then the boundaries become steps forward to how you reconcile. But whatever you choose, make no mistake, if you have a hurt, you have to process it. And it starts with forgiveness. And because forgiveness starts with admitting, I was hurt. Somehow I was wronged, and that wrong brought pain. And it's going to force you to engage the pain. And then as you engage the pain, you begin to move forward, and you begin to tell yourself, I forgave them, I choose to forgive them. You might have to do it regularly, every day, depending on the hurt, depending on who it was. If it's your ex, every time you see them, you might have to tell yourself, I choose to forgive them. That doesn't mean I choose to ignore what they did. It doesn't mean I choose to remove the boundaries. It doesn't mean that I choose to remove the consequences, but I chose to forgive them. If you do that, if you start there with your hurt and you move to, I choose to forgive them, you'll move away from anger and move towards peace, because that's the process. Forgiveness and reconciliation kind of run hand in hand, and reconciliation sometimes gets removed from the equation because the other person either doesn't want to reconcile, or they don't want to change, or you don't want to reconcile and they do. That's okay too, right? And so we'd move that out there, but we can still forgive. And then we move to peace. And peace comes on the other side of forgiveness. Always. If you're hanging on to anger, you're going to eventually end up with bitterness. And once you hang on to bitterness, you're going to eventually hang on to apathy. And once you're into apathy, you can't have peace because you're at war within yourself. It's not about removing consequences from the other person. It's about not drinking poison and expecting them to get sick. It's one of my favorite illustrations. I have no idea who came up with it, but whoever you are, I love that illustration. All right, so I don't know who you are. I don't know what pain you've been through. I don't know what hurts you've endured. But I want you to know that I really, truly believe that through forgiveness, you can find peace. Why don't you give it a try? Let me know. Write me, joemartino.com. Click the contact me button. I want to know what you think. Feel free to comment on the video. Thanks so much for watching this. If you found value in it, please share it with your friends on social media. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and then go in and turn on notifications so that every time we put up a video, you'll know. Thanks so much for watching. We'll catch you next time.